of such wonderful Vaishnavas as yourself, that we thaw out from the cold experience of this material world and finally can feel our toes and our fingers and our lives, and we can breathe easy in the circle of devotees who are drinking deep from this endless well of nectar known as Srimad Bhagavatam. So this morning, we are going to be reading from the 10th canto, which is known as the Samam Bonam, the cream of the cream, the top of the top of all spiritual knowledge, of all spiritual words, and directly describe the divine pastime, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna. So I'm going to just share my screen for the verse, and then we can recite that. So, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today's verse is chapter 1, text number 24. This is in the 10th canto, chapter 1, text 24. Vasudeva Kalananta Sahasravadana Swarat Agrato Bhavita Devo Hare Priya Chikirshaya. I'll go through the synonyms just so we get a feel and a flavor for the nuances of these individual words that make up the translation. Because sometimes, and I think it'd be good to know, you must have noticed it, that sometimes there'll be a word in the synonym that's not used in the translation. I don't think that's the case here, but every now and then, and this way we get another facet of meaning of what was translated. So if you have some time, it's always good to go through the synonyms, the word for word. So Vasudeva Kala Ananta, the plenary expansion of Lord Krishna known as Anantadev or Shankarshan Ananta, the all-pervasive incarnation of the Supreme Lord. The next one is Sahasra Vadana, having thousands of hoods. Now literally the word Vadana in Sanskrit does not mean hood. Sahasra means thousand, but Vadana means a face, the beautiful face. But because we're talking about 1,000 faces of Ananta, Srila Prabhupada offers in the translation thousands of hoods, you see. And Swarat. Swarat means fully independent. Agrata, previously. Bhavita, will appear. Deva, the Lord. Hare, of Lord Krishna. Priya Chikirshaya, with the desire to act for the pleasure. So now we get a feel for what the translation is going to be about and where we're going with this verse. So translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The foremost manifestation of Krishna is Shankarshan, who is known as Ananta. He is the origin of all incarnations within this material world. Previous to the appearance of Lord Krishna, this original Shankarshan will appear as Baladev, just to please the Supreme Lord Krishna in his transcendental pastimes. Purport: Sri Baladev is the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, yet he is equal in supremacy to the Supreme Godhead. Right? So he's equal in supremacy. This is an interesting concept to keep in mind. We're going to discuss this. He is equal in supremacy to the Supreme Godhead. Yet wherever Krishna appears, Sri Baladev appears as his brother, sometimes elder, sometimes younger. When Krishna appears, all his plenary expansions and other incarnations appear with him. This is elaborately explained in Chaitanya Charitamrita. This time, Baladev would appear before Krishna as Krishna's elder brother. So the purport ends here. So I'm going to pause here. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I offer my humble obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, who has opened my darkened eyes and filled my heart with transcendental knowledge. I further offer my obeisances to all of you assembled Vaishnavas and seek your kind blessings and permission that we may recite Srimad Bhagavatam. So, wow, a big crowd already. It's so wonderful to see so many devotees first thing in the morning like this, diving deep in this nectarian katha of Srimad Bhagavatam. So we are reading this section, which is the opening section of the 10th canto. And here we say, Vasudeva Kalananta Sahasra Vadana Svarat Agrato Bhavita Devo Hare Priya Chikirshaya. So we are focusing today on this particular incarnation of Lord Balaram, manifestation of Krishna, right? Shankarshan. So we see quite a few names here, quite a few names describing Balaram. So one is Vasudeva, Kala Ananta. Kala is expansion of the Lord, and Ananta. So it's interesting that in the word-for-word translation, he's known as Anantadev or Shankarshan. Now the name Shankarshan is not in the original verse, but he is known as Shankarshan Anantadev. And in the translation, you will see that Anantadeva is described as someone who is everywhere, or he is the origin of all incarnations. And in the, I think it is in the, I don't know if I got the translation, but yeah, he's described as he's Vasudeva, he's Krishna, he's all pervasive. And previous to the incarnation of Lord Krishna, which means that he comes in advance of the appearance of the Lord, you see. So sometimes the servant will follow the master, and sometimes the servant will run ahead when the master is traveling to make sure that everything is set correctly and to prepare for the arrival of the Lord to that particular destination. So in this particular case, Lord Balaram appears ahead of time before Lord Krishna comes to prepare things, make sure everything is ready, and he personally expands into all the paraphernalia and so on. So it is very appropriate to discuss Lord Balaram at this time of the year. Why? Because his most munificent appearance as Lord Nityananda is just around the corner. And we can start meditating on his strength, Bala. Bala means strength. So Balaram is the Lord of strength. And of course, Rama means pleasure. He gives pleasure primarily to the Lord. So he is the strength giver. But he's a strength giver to whom? And what kind of strength are we talking about? So we're talking about spiritual strength. So Balaram is a source of our spiritual strength. And that's an interesting concept even. What is this spiritual strength? Is it possible to have spiritual weakness? And what is the distinction? How can he give us more strength if the soul doesn't really change? Soul is always eternally cognizant, Sachidananda. So where does Balaram come into the picture? So we all know that we do need strength to move closer to Krishna and away from the darkness, which is illusion, or any kind of consciousness where Krishna is not directly front and center. That consciousness is antithetical to our happiness. That consciousness of darkness that takes us away from Krishna. It is the Maya consciousness, or the consciousness of illusion. So whenever we make a determination to turn away from this alluring darkness and come to the light of Krishna consciousness, that determination requires an override of our weaknesses. You see, the allurement is quite strong, and to pull away from all these allurements requires some strength. That strength comes from Anantadev Sankarshan or Balaram. See, so he is the strength giver, and in his form as Lord Nityananda, he is also the mercy giver. In fact, even though Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is known as the most merciful incarnation, Lord Nityananda is the way by which we can attain the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. Right? Tava kripa bole pai. How does it go? Yeah. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu daya karo more. Right? Tuma bina ke doyala jagada sansare. The next line is the prayer to Lord Nityananda. Haha Prabhu Nityananda Premananda Sukhi. So I don't recall. Yeah. Anyway, the point is that one can only receive the mercy of the Lord through the mercy of Lord Nityananda. So Mahaprabhu is accessible only through Nityananda, and Nityananda makes him accessible by giving us, he gives us his mercy in the form of forgiveness. You see, he forgave so much Jagai Madai, and he begs the Lord to forgive our Jagai Madai in our heart. Even Lord Chaitanya, though he's the most merciful, he was going to kill the brothers, Jagai Madai. But Lord Nityananda petitioned on behalf of the demons. You see, so we can also petition Lord Nityananda to give us strength and the permission, right? So, Haha Prabhu Nityananda Premananda Sukhi Kripa Balo Kanakoro Ami Baro Dukhi. Right? Thank you, Prabhu. So, please give me that mercy. Kripa Balo Kanakoro Ami Baro Dukhi, and give me that strength. I'm very sad. Ami Baro Dukhi. Make me happy. Right? Dukhi means sad. So you have come and you can give me your mercy. So Lord Nityananda, who is Lord Balaram, not different. Balaram Hoilo Nitai. So we can start praying now, and we're fortunate that we have this verse today, and it's Sunday, and there's never a wrong time or a off time to call out to Lord Nityananda Prabhu. So we know, Srila Prabhupada explained in one place that when we chant Hare Krishna and then there's Hare Rama, that Rama may also refer to Balarama. So we can call out to him as well. The Supreme Lord, so now I'm going to read from a purport in Chaitanya Charitamrita, which gets into some technical aspects of this, this concept of different types of expansions of the Lord. You see, Prabhupada said in the purport, this is elaborately explained in Chaitanya Charitamrita. We won't get too much into technical concept, just to get some framework, okay? Or the different kinds of forms of the Lord. So the personality of Godhead exhibits himself in two kinds or categories of forms. Okay? One is known as Prakasha, and the other is Vilasa. So Prakasha and Vilasa. Those are two categories. The Prakasha forms are manifested by Lord Krishna for his pastimes, and their features are exactly like his. Which means they have two arms. They don't have the four arms. Okay. When Lord Krishna married the 16,000 queens in Dwarka, he did so in 16,000 Prakasha expansions. See, so at that time, he didn't have the four arms and things like, and different things. It was exactly, his form was exactly like Krishna, Shyamsundar Krishna. Similarly, during the Rasa dance, you know the Rasa dance, so many gopis, and he expanded himself in identical Prakasha forms to dance beside each and every gopi simultaneously. This is quite astounding. Of course, for the Lord, is God, but it's quite amazing when he did it. It was very mind-blowing for us to hear about it. Certainly, you can imagine how the gopis must have felt. So this is known as Prakasha expansion, Prakasha forms. Now, when the Lord manifests his vilasa forms, however, they're all somewhat different in their bodily features. So Lord Balaram is the first vilasa form of the Lord, first vilasa expansion. And then the various four-handed Narayan forms in Vaikuntha, they all expand from Lord Balaram. So Prabhupada continues, he says, there is no difference between the bodily forms of Sri Krishna and Balaram, except that their bodily colors are different. Similarly, Sri Narayan in Vaikuntha has 4 hands, whereas Krishna has only 2. So the expansion of the Lord who manifests such bodily differences are known as Vilasa Vigraha. So now among these Vilasa Vigraha, we read another translation purport from Chaitanya Charitamrita. This is Adi Lila 5.10. Who is this Lord Balaram? Who is this Shesha? So it says, he executes the orders of Lord Krishna in the work of creation, and in the form of Lord Shesha, he serves Krishna in various ways. So according to expert opinion, Balaram is the chief. He's as the chief of the original quadruple forms, Chaturvyuha. He's also the original Shankarshan. So you'll see a lot of these names pop up, right? So Balaram, the first expansion of Krishna, expands himself in 5 forms. Mahashankarshan, Karanodakshai, Garbhodakshai, Kshiradakshai, and Shesha. Okay. So it's Mahashankarshan, Karanodakshai, Garbhodakshai, Kshiradakshai, and Shesha. These 5 plenary portions are responsible for both the spiritual and material cosmic manifestations. In these 5 forms, Lord Balaram assists Krishna in his activities. The first 4 of these forms are responsible for the cosmic manifestations, whereas Shesha is responsible for personal service to the Lord. Personal service. Shesha is called Ananta or unlimited because he assists the personality of Godhead in his unlimited expansions by performing an unlimited variety of services. Shri Balaram is the servitor Godhead who serves Krishna in all affairs of existence and knowledge. Lord Nityananda Prabhu, who is the same servitor Godhead, Balaram, performs the same service to Lord Gauranga by constant association. See? So it's a very beautiful relationship between Krishna and Balaram. It's hard to fathom what that relationship is really. See? And then in teaching of Lord Chaitanya, Srila Prabhupada explains that Mahavishnu, so now we talked about the Mahavishnu, who lies, Mahavishnu is also known as Karanodakshai. Karan means cause. Karana. Karanodakshai means one who lays on the causal ocean. Karana ocean. A very unusual name. And when I first read it, I thought it's a typo. It was like supposed to be casual ocean. They just everywhere they're repeating this typo, casual ocean. Why don't they correct this? These guys should really, proofread these books before printing them. What is a causal ocean? Casual ocean, you can understand. You're just lying there casually. Causal ocean is a very distinct, that he's the cause of all causes. He's the cause of the cosmic manifestation. Okay, so he's the one who's lying that Mahavishnu or Karanadakshay Vishnu is an expansion of Balaram, who is Krishna's first expansion. In the Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. The word Rama refers to Balarama. And since Nityananda is an expansion of Balarama, Rama also refers to Lord Nityananda. He's there in the mantra. Thus, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama addresses not only Krishna and Balaram, but Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda as well. So this is directly, I'm reading from Teachings of Lord Chaitanya in the introduction. So there's a lot of depth in the introductions to the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. And of course, incredible depth in the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, the book itself. So in the purport of today's verse, Srila Prabhupada says this very interesting line. He says that he's equal in supremacy. Equal in supremacy. So who is Lord Balaram? He is the elder brother of God, Krishna, and yet he is also God, equal in supremacy to the supreme Godhead. Now this statement in and of itself seems to be an apparent contradiction. Why? Because by definition, the supreme can only be one. When you say the supreme, it can only be one. If there is another who is equal in supremacy, then he is not the supreme. Either Krishna is not supreme, maybe he's just one of the supremes. You can't have the supremes, unless of course you're talking about the band in the 60s, and the Supremes were huge. I mean, they rivaled the Beatles in popularity, but still they were not the supreme. They were the Supremes, right? So how does that even reconcile? So this is very bewildering. Like Prabhupada says, Balaram is not a Vilas. I mean, he's not a Prakash expansion, he's a Vilas expansion, where his bodily features are slightly different, somewhat different. You see, the Prakash ones we can understand. Krishna just kind of replicating himself exactly. That's just Krishna, and then he just multiplies, and then he kind of contracts again. But Balaram is a little bit different. But not that different. In fact, it's said that Krishna is a black Balaram, and Balaram is a white Krishna. That's all. That's the only difference. When Krishna takes one step to the right, that is Balaram. You see, that's basically, there's no difference other than that. But Krishna is a supreme enjoyer. And Balaram, his first expansion, he's simultaneously Godhead, but he is known as the servitor Godhead. See, so in that sense, he is the chief of all servitors. He is the chief of all devotees. He is the master. He's the first devotee. He's the master of all of us who may want to also be devotees. Therefore, he's the one who gives us strength. He's the one who gives us guidance. He's the one who gives us leniency. He's the one who straightens us out when we need to be straightened out. It is him. So he's a servitor Godhead. He's Godhead, but he's serving. So now this is very bewildering and inconceivable. They're simultaneously one, and yet they're also different. So if it were possible to conceive of how this works with our limited intelligence, then this concept would not be called achintya bheda bheda tattva, where it's inconceivably same and different. Krishna is inconceivably non-different from his expansions, and yet he's also different. If it was possible to understand, then it would not be called achintya. So we have to leave it at that. There's a reason why Mahaprabhu prefaces that with achintya bheda bheda tattva. Who knows why he does these things? I mean, we kind of know he likes to expand his pleasure and all that, But Krishna's pastimes and the way he expands himself is so amazing, unique. He can you can use this to answer questions that people have been asking for forever, philosophers. Like, sometimes atheists, they would pose an argument. Okay, God is that person for whom nothing is impossible. Right? So can God make a rock, a stone, that is so heavy that he cannot lift it? Sometimes you might have heard this, Can God make a rock that is so heavy he cannot lift it? So now, by that question, you're trying to trap the theist, the God believer. Because if you say that he cannot make that rock, that means there's something he cannot do. And if he can make that rock, then he can't lift it. So that is something he cannot do also. So then he's not supreme. So you're trapping someone with a question where, if you say yes or no, either way, you acknowledge that God is not God, you see. But someone says, can Krishna make a rock that he cannot lift? Sure, he can lift it. I mean, he can make the rock. And he can't lift it. But Balaram can lift it. So it's not Krishna, but Balaram lifted it, you see. So then, but Balaram is also God, you see. So now it covers both. He was able to make the rock that he couldn't lift, but Balaram being God can lift it, you see. So that's a tight slap to even those silly questions. But it is bewildering. So now, which is the Lord in our heart? Is it Balaram or is it Krishna? We keep saying Krishna is in our heart as Paramatma. But we learned today that Kshira Dakshay Vishnu, who is the Paramatma, is actually an expansion of Lord Balaram. So which is it? So it's important to understand this concept. When a devotee of Lord Nrsimhadev, for example, sees the form of Lord Shyamsundar in the temple, you go to the temple, he's a Nrsingadev Bhakta. In his home, he has posters of Lord Nrsingadev, he has a deity of Lord Nrsingadev, and he's a big fan of Lord Nrsingadev's pastimes, that's his main form that he worships. So when he comes to the Radha Krishna temple and he sees the Shyamsundar, who does he see? He says, this is my Nrsingadev who is standing like this. See, this is my Nrsingadev. Yes. And he sees him with love. But that love is infused with his love for Nrsingadev. Similarly, when a devotee of Shyamsundar goes to Nrsingadev temple, he says, this is my Shyamsundar. What a beautiful pastime. He came out of the pillar, but it's the same Shyamsundar who plays the flute. Tava kara kamala vare nakham adbhuta shringa dalita hiranyakashipu tanubhringa. Now what is the last line? Keshava dhrita narahari rupa jai jagadisha hare. So you know that Jayadev Goswami's 10 Incarnation Song, right? Dashavatar Stotra. He describes the 10 incarnations, and in each of them he has this line, Keshavadrita Meena Sharira, Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa, Keshavadrita Bhrigupati Rupa, Keshavadrita Haladhara Rupa. It is that Keshava, that Krishna, who is that Haladhara, that Lord Balaram. So Balaram is one of those 10 incarnations. Krishna is not listed among those 10, by the way. He's not one of the 10. Why? Because he's there in all of the 10. Keshavadrita, Kesha, he's there everywhere. So who is the Lord in our heart? He's Balaram, but which Balaram? Keshavadrita. Ultimately it's Keshava. So it is Krishna. So don't even get confused about it. This is Krishna in our heart. But of course that expansion, particular form, comes from that. We see he comes from Balaram. Now, of course, this whole business about coming from gives us an impression that there was a time when there was no Balaram. And first Krishna was just by himself and said, okay, you know what, it would be nice to have an expansion. So there was a date in time and then he expanded, but before that there was no Balaram. That's not true either. He's Ananta. Anadi Ananta. Balaram has always been there. All the various incarnations of the Lord have always been there. There's never a time when they don't exist. What to speak of the incarnations? We have always been there, which is pretty mind-blowing. Right? In Bhagavad Gita 2.12, Krishna says, Nattu evaham jatunasam, nattam nime janadipa, nachaiva na bhavishyama sarve vayam atah param. That never was there a time when you did not exist, nor I did not, and I, nor all these kings, and neither shall any of us in the future cease to be. So, if that's the case for us souls, what to speak of, Balaram. So, it's not that, these incarnations came into being at some point in time, right? So, when we say, or someone says that Shyamsundar Krishna never leaves Vrindavan, you might have heard that. Have you heard this? You might have heard that Krishna never leaves Vrindavan. Well, that's... Okay, I've heard that, but then who did all the pastimes in Dwarka? I mean, we just talked about his pastimes. Dwarka is not in Vrindavan. What about in Hastinapur when he was friends with Arjuna and he would taunt Duryodhana, he did all kinds of stuff. And Kurukshetra, was it someone else who spoke the Bhagavad Gita? If you say Krishna never leaves Vrindavan. So which is it? How do you reconcile these kind of statements? Should we then decide that, okay, one is sort of correct and the other is not correct exactly? They're both correct, but we have to understand how to reconcile these kind of statements. Whenever we're discussing Krishna, we have to be clear on two platforms. Our understanding of two platforms has to be clear. One platform is known as Tattva Vichar, and the other platform is known as Rasa Vichar. So Tattva means what category of being is that person. So if you're talking about, say myself, I am a spirit soul. So mine would be Jiva Tattva. But if you talk about Lord Nrsingadev is not Jiva Tattva, he is known as Vishnu Tattva, you see. So Lord Nrsingadev is Vishnu Tattva, Lord Ram is Vishnu Tattva, Balaram, of course Krishna, all the expansion of Vishnu, they're all the same person, Prabhupada described, right? That is basically Vishnu is a formal manifestation of Krishna. He comes when he decides to do something more formally and wants to enjoy in that kind of formal opulence and awe and reverence, then he takes the Vishnu form. So it's really Krishna in different kind of expansion of enjoyment, right? So on that platform of understanding, Krishna is the same as Vishnu, is the same as Rama, is the same as Nrsingadev. But on the platform of Rasa Vichar, Rasa means the flavor or mellow of love that Krishna exchanges with his devotees, that Krishna expresses when he's enjoying, expanding his pleasure. Then Krishna in Vrindavan is different from the Krishna in Dwarka, it's different from the Krishna in Kurukshetra. See, because his rasa is different. And you don't mix them. Therefore, this concept of rasabhas, where you don't mix different flavors. You see, we know on Vishnu Tattva level, Lord Ram is Lord Krishna, who is Lord Nrsingadev. But we don't mix and match the different things. We don't give a flute to Lord Ram to play. We don't put Sita Devi with Lord Krishna, right? Sita Devi is always Lord Ram. You can't mix and match, otherwise it'll create rasabhas. So similarly, when we're talking on Rasa Vichar, then Krishna never leaves Vrindavan. Because that is Shamsundar Krishna, Nanda Nandana. He never puts on shoes, even for a minute. Why? Because he enjoys the touch of the Vrindavan Bhumi, and he leaves his beautiful footprints. But when he leaves Vrindavan in the form of, he does other pastimes with Vasudeva Krishna, then on the Rasa platform, it's a different person. On the Tattva platform, it's the same person, you see. So it's very important to understand which platform we're talking about. Then all these kind of confusing disparities can be easily reconciled. Yeah, on the Rasa platform, he's not the same person. That's it. And then you just move forward. It becomes very, very clear. But of course, they always, Krishna and Balaram, they always do naughty things. Whether they come as Krishna and Balaram, you must have read so many naughty pastimes of Lord Nityananda, what he used to do. In fact, you may think that, okay, at least as Lord Ram and Lord Lakshman, they were well behaved. But they were not. So I'll tell you a quick story of when they were children. So one day Lord Ram and Lakshman, they were little kids, okay? And they were just learning how to do the bows and arrows, and they're being taught by their guru. And they saw a girl walking, little girl, maybe she must have been 10 years old or something. She's walking with a huge nose ring. Now, you know how in India, sometimes the women wear these massive, big nose rings, and they're so big, you can see them on the bus, and then the nose ring is so big that the kid can hold on to the ring while in the bus. I mean, it's massive, right? So she had this huge nose ring, and she was walking with this water pot, right? And Lakshman looked at this ring, like, wow! He started laughing. Look at that nose ring, it's so big. And then Lord Ram, of course, they were kids, right? So they like to play. Said, hey, Gurudev Vashishta, he's looking away, so let's have some fun. So they started to be naughty. They looked around and they saw an arrow and said, look at that arrow. Let's play with it. Now they'd not yet been taught archery, but they're the lords. They know how to do this. So Lakshman said, I'll take this arrow, and using the arrow's magical power, I'll make the ring really small because it's just too big. It's massive. So then he shot the arrow, and magically the arrow came over and did some magic sprinkling and started pouring some mystic substance on the nose ring, and the nose ring became really small. Now it became so small that it stuck on the nose and the girl couldn't breathe anymore, poor girl. So then she dropped the water pot and she tried, oh my God, I can only breathe from one nostril, somebody help me. She got really confused. And then Lakshman said, "Oh no, what did I do? Vashishta Guru Maharaj will hear and we'll have a problem." And Ramchandra said, "Don't worry." And so the Ramchandra shot another arrow, and then that arrow came and made it big. And then she's like, "What's going on?" She turned around and said, "What is this you're doing to me?" And Lakshman said, "Oh, yeah, we made your nose ring small, but I'm not so good at it yet, so it became too small. So then my brother came and he made it big." And then she's like, "No way." Because, they're also little kids. "There's no way you guys did this. I don't believe you can do this." So then Lakshman said, "Oh, you don't believe it? Then I'll take it off." So he shot another arrow and that kind of magically took it off, and it just took off with the ring, and she started running behind the arrow and said, "No, my nose ring, my nose ring." What happened? And didn't even touch her face, right? And she cried out, "My nose ring." And then Lord Ram, he said, "Okay, you got to stop this." And he fired another arrow and brought back the nose ring to her, and she's really happy. I mean, it's a very silly thing, but this is what kind of things they used to do. So you can imagine, you see, all these tendencies we have as little kids, or even sometimes grown-ups, we don't behave maturely. We just want to have some fun. These tendencies also come from the Lord, and so the Lord has his exchanges with himself and his own expansions. Lord Balaram, Lord Nityananda, Lord Lakshman. These are all the same person, but their rasas are different. But it's really the same expansion. So there's no end to the pastimes of the Lord. There is no end to the beauty of the Lord. There's no end to the satisfaction that comes from serving the Lord, which is why he's constantly serving. And because it is endless and he is endless, he is known as Ananta. Anta means end, and Ananta means no end. And that's what we are looking for ultimately, isn't it? We are looking for endless bliss, endless pleasure. Even though we ourselves are very tiny and finite. We are tiny and finite, but Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains that the soul, even though it's very infinitesimal, it has the capacity to enjoy infinite bliss. So we are actually in a very good state existentially, you see. We don't have the responsibility of infinite, this massive universe and have to maintain everything and take care of how things move around. But we have the capacity and the availability of infinite bliss. So it's like win-win, You don't have to deal with the responsibility, but we get the best of pleasure as spirit souls. All we have to do is place ourselves in our constitutional position as a pure spirit soul, work toward it, and the more we work toward it, the more we'll find that ananta satisfaction, the bliss that comes with Krishna consciousness. So thank you. I'll pause over here and let us meditate on Lord Balaram and Lord Nityananda and read more about them and their causeless mercy, their beautiful blue dress, and so on. So we can pause here if there's any discussions, comments, reflections, questions, and so on. We have a few minutes. It's Sunday, so we can go for that. Thank you very much for this time. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Kesha Mahaprabhu. Hare Bol.
Dandavat Pranam Prabhu. This is an excellent class, a very, very amazing description. If in case possible, can you kindly explain a bit more about the rasa identification and the tattva identification which you mentioned earlier on?
Yeah. So like I was saying, rasa refers to mellow or taste. Okay. When Krishna enjoys in Vrindavan, he does a particular set of things to maximize the pleasure of the flavor of that exchange. Now, rasa also refers to level of intimacy. So depending on the type of rasa, the level of intimacy will vary. For example, and you may also see this in yourself, okay? Sometimes you may want to enjoy great opulence, flamboyant opulence, very flashy. Like, okay, I want to, you can go daydreaming. I want to be like a billionaire, multi-billionaire, and I'll have this massive building and a house and have these flashy cars. And, I'll have personal assistants and people coming up to me and asking for directions. And I'll walk in my beautiful, really nice suit and polished shoes and tell people what to do. That's one idea of enjoyment. Then you can go off on another daydream, or maybe you can actually do it yourself, where you go to the Bahamas and you're just wearing swimming trunks and just chilling by the beach, and your family is there and wife is there, children is there, and they're just completely relaxed, and you're joking with each other, splashing water maybe, and the kids come and jump on your back. So that is another also very pleasurable thing. Now, if you're in the Bahamas, all of a sudden you put on this, you're on the beach and you put on this suit and tie and you put on your sunglasses and you put on your shiny shoes and you walk around and you look for a secretary to boss her around. This is not the right place at the time. It just doesn't match. Both are valid. Okay, both enjoyment scenarios are valid, but certain things don't work. They just don't go well together. And those who are expert cooks know that. This is why you'll never find a cheese khichdi casserole. This cheese doesn't go on khichdi. You'll never find it. It's disgusting.
Excellent. Yes.
That is called rasabhas. So same way the Lord also, he has his scenarios and stage. Everything is perfectly set where things go well together. And so to enjoy the mood properly, he will make sure everything is set correctly. And he'll empower others who are very expert at this. So Purnamasi Devi, she's the one who directs all the rasas of Vrindavan. But then the same Lord, if he decides to do some really crazy stuff where he wants to rip somebody apart and just pull out their intestines, he's not going to do that in that loving scenario. When he's dancing with the gopis, he's not going to all of a sudden grab a demon and pull out the entrails while the gopis are watching. That's not the mood he wants to do. But in this passage on Nrsingadev, he does do that. So they don't mix. The same person, but at the same time, he's not the same person. Right?
Very well. Yes, Prabhuji.
So that's how you can see rasa and tattva. And so now when sometimes someone asks you, how is it that Krishna leaves Vrindavan, he doesn't leave Vrindavan? You can answer it this way. That's the way to understand it. Thank you.
Very grateful to you. Thank you.
Okay, Shikshashtaka Prabhu. Go ahead, Prabhu.
Sorry, I had myself unmuted. Hare Krishna Prabhu, accept my obeisances. Very nice class. I just wanted to add one thing. I don't know if you said, but Balarama is also the manifestation of Guru.
Yes. Yeah, we didn't touch upon that at all. That is a very...
There's another thing that I actually read in Satsarup Maharaj's book about Srila Prabhupada. He said that Srila Prabhupada is actually a manifestation of Balaram.
Yes.
And that struck me as very wonderful because he is Sri Guru.
Yes.
And Krishna is empowering all the gurus. Lord Balaram is empowering all the gurus with spiritual strength by which we can attain Krishna. So I thought that was that struck me as kind of profound when he said that Srila Prabhupada is a manifestation, actually direct manifestation of Lord Balaram.
Yeah, that's the point we did not touch upon, but it's a very, very important aspect of Lord Balaram, that he is Guru Tattva himself. He's the embodiment of Guru Tattva. All gurus are representatives of Lord Balaram. And this is mentioned in not one or two scriptures, but all the scriptures. That the guru is directly the Lord himself, and yet he's also the servant. So that's the Balaram, right? He's a servitor, but he's also directly the Lord himself. Sakshad dharitvena, and not just one or two scriptures, samasta shastrair, all the scriptures. Ukta satha bhavyate vashadbhi. Kintu, but prabhureva priya eva tasya. That he's, however, means that yes, that's true, but he's also not the Lord but the dear servant of the Lord. So yes, it's a very important point to remember that the Guru is a manifestation of Balaram. Thank you, Prabhu. It's a very good point. Gail Mataji. Oh, sorry, Anand Bihari Prabhu, you want to mention something?
Yeah, I just wanted to appreciate your analogy about the Bahamas and the suit and the beach. I had a realization while I was biking. I was thinking, when we're trying to serve Krishna, that's the beach. You know, it feels good, it feels warm. And then our material attachments that we carry, that's the suit that has to be abandoned at that point. So thank you very much for that analogy. I really liked it. Really, really nice. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu. Yeah. We can be ourselves with Krishna. We can be. We can take off our coverings.
Yeah, pull your pants down. Don't be ridiculous. You're at the beach.
We can take off our covering. That's right. We can be ourselves. Yes. Yeah. All right. Gail Mataji's been waiting very patiently.
Not so patiently. No. Yeah. Actually, when you were discussing, is it Krishna or Balaram in the heart? You mentioned this Keshava Drita. What does Drita mean?
Drita means one who is carrying or takes the form of. So Keshava Drita. Keshava is taken from Dharana. Dharana means to take up the form. So Keshava is the one who's taken the form. Keshava Drita. Krishna has taken the form of Narahari. Keshava Drita Raghupati Rupa. So it is that same Krishna. That is the essence of that song, that prayer, is to highlight the Tattva Vichar and Rasa Vichar, the contrast between the two. That Bhrigupati is, who's Bhrigupati? Bhrigupati is Lord Parshuram. Parshuram is listed in that 10 incarnations, you see. So is that Keshava? In a sense, yes, because he's a Shakti Avesh avatar. But he's not one of the Vilas, not expansions. So even that is Keshava. But you just have to understand it correctly. So Keshava Drita, he's taken on that form.
Wait, taken on which form? Keshava
has taken on the form of Narsimha. Keshava has taken the form of Lord Rama, or the fish, or the Matsya, Kurma, like that. Matsya avatar is fish, Kurma. So it is that same Keshava who has taken on that form.
Oh, okay. And so when you ask the question, in our heart, right? Is it Krishna or is it Balaram? So therefore, because of this Keshava Drita concept, he is both.
That's right. Exactly.
Because the Paramatma is an expansion of Balaram.
Correct. Expansion of an expansion. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, and so this one other vocabulary word, vichar, tattva vichar versus rasa vichar. What does vichar mean?
Vichar means thought or line of thought. So tattva vichar, on that line of thought, this is correct. But on this other line of thought, this is correct. Of course, we use the word platform because the platform means they're two different, This is one platform, this is the other platform. It's a material platform, spiritual platform, or you can say the platform of the taste, the platform of tattva or essence, Like, food analogy works the same way. You can say protein, platform, in form of protein is, there's chickpeas and then there's beans and there's tofu and there's so many other kinds of proteins. There's gluten. So the platform of protein, they're all the same, but in platform of taste, there's some differences. There's how certain things you can only put certain spices in that go well. So they're both protein, they're both Vishnu Tattva, but at the same time, they're not the same. Tofu is not the same.
Yeah. You said tofu is not the same as what?
Tofu is not the same as paneer. It's not the same as gluten, but they're all protein.
They're all protein. Nice. I like that. Prabhu, that really beautiful, beautiful, beautiful background, is that Kusum Sarovar or another one?
That is Kusum Sarovar, that's correct.
Yeah, and it had to be because it's like, oh my goodness, it's really Dham of all Dhams for me.
Yeah, Kusum Sarovar is beautiful, yes.
So beautiful. Thank you for putting that up, and thank you for the class and your answers.
Thank you for participating.
Very cool.
Hey, we have a question from Andrea Paula. Go ahead. Or
Hi
comment.
Krishna.
Hello.
Hi Krishna, Madana, Gopala, Prabhu. Thank you for the class. I really appreciate you always. It's always such a great mixture of seriousness and humor, which I really appreciate. I guess that's your rasa, right? And Gail actually asked the first part of my question because I also was trying to figure out the Keshava Drita. And then the second part of my question was with that whole idea of like how Krishna manifests in our heart and how we connect. So where does Radha kind of factor in with this? Like where is she in this whole conversation?
Yes, so that's a good question. Krishna is always there with all his expansions and his potencies and his energies wherever he goes. You see, but sometimes those potencies or expansions are manifest, and sometimes they're not manifest. That means they're available for us to see, and sometimes they're not. So Krishna always carries Radharani in his heart. This Krishna and Radharani are never separate, you see. But at the same time, Radharani only becomes manifest when the rasa is appropriate, you see. So Radharani will manifest in Krishna's pastime as in the rasa dance, or other pastimes that he does in the kunjas, the pleasure grows of Vrindavan. So that is very appropriate for Radharani to appear. She does not appear during the battle in Kurukshetra. However, she does appear in Kurukshetra at a different time. Yes, during the eclipse when they're pulling the chariot. And that also happened in Kurukshetra, and the gopis, they come. And so gopis do come. There's a pastime about that as well. But because Krishna is so much in love with Radharani, every now and then he lets it slip, and Radharani comes out and becomes manifest. And our acharyas explain this. It's very sweet because it shows how much he loves her, and even though the rasa may not be exactly appropriate, his absorption in Radharani comes out. In one of the verses of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that Mahatmanastu mam partha Devim Prakritim Ashrita. You might have heard that verse, that the great souls, Mahatmas, they take shelter of the divine energy, Devim Prakriti. So the Acharyas explain, Srila Prabhupada explains, Rup Goswami also explains, that when he's talking about Devi Prakriti, he's referring to Radharani. Now, this reference is not found in the purport to that verse. But if you advance further and you read Nectar of Devotion, you will find Prabhupada references that verse. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says this, and when he says Devi Prakriti, he is referring to Radharani. So in there, he explicitly reveals it. So that revelation is not available in Bhagavad Gita purport. It's available in Nectar of Devotion, which is why Prabhupada said you should read all the books. Because some things you'll not get. And sometimes the connections may not always be there, which is why it's important for us to read all of them again and again, because every time we read again, some new connections get made. And these connections are not academic. These connections are full of nectar and pleasure, and they supercharge our Krishna consciousness. See, so Radharani is always there, and every now and then it comes out, and it just melts our heart, even though it comes out in an unexpected place, like the tense battlefield of Kurukshetra. So if we read more and more the Acharya's works, especially what Srila Prabhupada has given us, he's given us everything. And so yes, your question to where does Radharani fit into this? The rasa is always appropriate. You see, he will not mention Radharani directly in that verse. You should take shelter of my divine energies. those who are demoniacally inclined, they will take shelter of my Mohini Prakriti, my bewildering, deluding energy. In the very next verse, he says, but the great souls, Mahatmanastu Mahapartha, Devim Prakriti Ashita. So they will take shelter not of the bewildering energy, but of my divine energy. And of course, nothing is impersonal in Krishna consciousness as such. And who is that energy? That is Radharani herself. And Prabhupada expands on that very beautifully in Nectar of Devotion. And he references that verse, he connects it together. So Radharani is always there, sometimes manifest, sometimes not manifest. But at the same time, Krishna will not let rasa bhas or inappropriate mixing of rasas take place. Right?
Madam Gopala Prabhu, just to follow up quickly on Andrea's question, is Radharani present in Lord Chaitanya and his movement? And is she present in the Maha Mantra, which is Krishna himself for this age?
Yes, of course. So we know, that's a good question. And, it's interesting. Srila Prabhupada explains that Mother Hara is Radharani, name of Radharani. And when we chant Hare Krishna, we're referring to Mother Hara, right? That, oh Radharani, please give me your shelter. But did you know that in the spiritual world, the gopis chant the same mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. This mantra comes from the gopis. In fact, Radharani chants this mantra. Why would she chant Hare Krishna? Because Hare means you're calling out to Radharani. The Sanskrit is so beautiful. Sanskrit is so beautiful that when you're calling out to Hara, the vocative means O Hara, turns into Hare. So who is she calling out to when she's chanting Hare Krishna? She is calling out to Hari. Because in Sanskrit, when you want to say, oh Hari, you also say Hare. So Hari, like that, you see? So this mantra is very versatile. She can also chant it, and she does. And it's a very beautiful poetic mantra, very powerful mantra. It's not just meant for Kali Yuga, but it's the only thing that works in Kali Yuga. See, so yes, that's a sidebar. But yes, of course, we know that when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu absorbs the mood of Srimati Radharani, then Krishna Varnam Tusha Krishnam, that he is Krishna himself, but his darkness goes away and the color of Radharani shines forth through his dark skin, so much so that his skin is no longer dark, it becomes golden. And that is why he is golden, Gauranga. So this golden color comes from that absorption in Radharani's mood. But at the same time, Radharani also appears in the Panchatattva as Sri Gadadhar Pandit, as the incarnation of the internal potency. She also takes the form of Gadadhar Pandit in the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. You see, so she is there in the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. She is there in the form of Gadadhar Pandit. She is there in the combined form of Radha Krishna when Mahaprabhu comes. And so there's a lot of depth to this whole concept. And Yashodhara Prabhu has given a nice reference of how these different incarnations of Krishna come on their own purposes and so on. That's very nice. So Srimati Radharani is always there where Krishna is there. And sometimes Krishna gets caught even by the queens of Dwarka. What are you thinking? Why? Sometimes I hear you chanting in your sleep, Radha, Radha, who is this Radha? You see, so we read about those pastimes as well. Krishna cannot be separate from Radharani. So yeah, he's always there whenever he comes. And if he comes as a different incarnation like Nrsimhadev and all, then expansion of Radharani comes also. That's why we have Lakshmi Nrsimha, we have Sita Ram, like that. So Lakshmi Devi is expansion of Radharani, and Sita Devi is expansion of Lakshmi Devi, like that. So
yeah, thank you, Prabhu. Very satisfying, bona fide, clear explanation. Thank you very much. And you should have unmute yourself. Say something. Come on, you're here with us.
Yeah, take off that suit.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm walking around and listening to this. We've been listening on YouTube. No, very, very beautiful discussion as always. Wouldn't miss Madan Gopal Prabhu's class for anything. So this was beautiful. And the discussions on the different avatars and, the expansions of Krishna. That's why I put the Bhagavatam purport that I put in the chat, because I think that might be another angle of answering Andrea's question.
So Yashodadalal Prabhu is directly showing how this Rasa Vichar Tattva Vichar works, because before he turned on his video, you could see a picture of him with this formal suit and everything. That's his default YouTube Zoom picture, and all of a sudden he's wearing the sunlight coming in. Is this very casual blue suit and this blue T-shirt and
a little rake and shovel.
Yeah,
the sand.
And he's smiling. He's not all business anymore. The other picture you could see is the chief financial officer of a Fortune 500 company, and people are trembling when they see his picture. He's not smiling at all. Oh my God, I'll probably get fired or something, And then all of a sudden, oh yeah, just me, So yeah, he's always manifesting these. These are called manifestations of Yashodadalal Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu.
I was gonna say the same thing, Madan Gopal Prabhu, about Yashodadalal Prabhu, but you said it so beautiful. Thank you.
Hey, well.
I think you should edit it out, Anand Bihari Prabhu, of the YouTube recording. All this.
No, that's the sweetest. No.
Thank you, Madan Gopal Prabhu, and thank you, Anand Bihari Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
So,
okay, would anyone else like to share, reflect? I can take one more.
Yeah, if you please share. You don't have to be a question. It could just be something that you came across, or something that you read, or something related to Balaram. If you have anything like that. Yes, Prabhu.
Krishna, Haribol. I'm worried about you, Ananda Bihari. You out there in this cold.
No, I'm on the beach. I'm at the beach. Don't worry. I'm good. It's not snow.
Anyway, thank you for this wonderful class. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for joining. Haribol. Yes. Well, Bhima Prabhu, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was showing snow. It's wonderful out here. Look at this. The sun. Can you see this? The sun, the snow.
Yeah.
Everywhere. It's beautiful. This is when I walk through this, it's 2 feet. When I walk through it, it's the same rhythm as chanting Hare Krishna. So when I take long hikes through this morning, it was good for chanting. So it's a wonderful, wonderful, beautiful class. And Balarama and Radharani, it occurred to me that when Bhishma was shooting the arrows and they were alighting upon Krishna as a lover's bites, I would think that if this was how Krishna felt them, then at that time Radharani would have been on that field in the form of his memory of her bites upon his skin. So that just popped into my head. I could be way off. Is there any Shastra to that, Prabhu?
Well, Krishna, the thing is, again, you can talk on love is love, and again, they're flavors of love, right? So the love that Radharani has for Krishna and vice versa is love. The love that Bhishma Dev has for Krishna and vice versa is also love. But their love is expressed differently, is manifested differently. And because every interaction is a form of love, loving exchange, therefore that can be seen as a love bite, but that level of intimacy is manifested differently. So therefore it's definitely considered different flavor, but love is love. So on the level of the tattva of love, it's all love. The level of rasa of love, it's different, you see.
I'm saying that, yes, of course, as far as coming from Bhishma, of course, there was great love in order to surrender to being on the other side to give Krishna a good fight. But it was mentioned, now is it in the purport or is it in the verse where it says that these arrows affected Krishna like the lover's bites? Is that Prabhupada's purport?
That's in the purport. I read
that's in the purport.
Yeah,
so if they did, he must have gotten, Prabhupada must be quoting from somebody, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur probably. My thought was that Krishna remembering, on the battlefield, a soldier remembers his most beloved.
Yes.
Okay, so I would think that Radharani was there on the battlefield with Krishna because that's what a soldier does. when he's on the battlefield, because after all, what is he fighting for?
Yeah,
So,
he does.
yeah,
He
Hare
never
Krishna.
forgets Radharani. Thank you, Prabhu. And I'm just seeing how you have incredible layers protecting you from this cold. I mean, even Anand Bihari Prabhu has this urban environment, but you have this layers of warm jacket and your hat on and everything makes you functional, makes you able to go out and enjoy the winter, you know? And
No, these clothes don't make me functional. I'm completely dysfunctional. That's why I'm out in this. Layers protect everyone from me, so I can, walk alone in snowy fields where no one else is, so I don't cause any harm. Prabhu, I'm dealing with this. I got 20 acres to plow out. But anyways, listening to you speak, I felt like I was inside next to the fireplace, next to our wood stove. Your voice, your quote, going straight to Ras, which is always of great solace to listen to an explanation and the stories of Ras and the differences, so that everybody understands, exactly what Krishna is getting at in his Leela, which is just simply to enjoy himself. And thank you for reminding us of that. Hare Krishna.
Hey, well, Anand Bihari Prabhu, are you on a treadmill? Because your background is not moving at all.
It's not moving.
No, I'm just walking back and forth, enjoying the
No,
class.
it's very it kind of defeats the purpose if you're going to be treadmill outside, But it's interesting. It's so cold, but you're able to come outside. And it reminds me of, you have the 4 yugas and the 4 seasons, right? So in Kali Yuga, you can't go outside in your Bahama suit, But that's what when we're material world, when we're material consciousness, we do that. And we hurt ourselves so badly. We can't function like that, But if we cover ourselves with the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, which is, it is said these 16 names reverse all the ill effects of Kali. They protect us from the effects of Kali. So similarly, it's like putting on that hat and layers, and then you can actually go out no matter what yuga you are in. No matter what.
Yeah, Krishna underpants, we call it.
Yeah. No matter what season you're in, you have to have those layers. You got to have Krishna kavacha, the armor that protects us from the elements. Otherwise, it's foolhardy to just step outside. Hey, what can I do? I don't have a choice. It's Kali Yuga. No. You have a choice. You take off your swimming trunks and put on proper clothes. No, what can I do? I'm just used to walking around swimming trunks. It's Kali Yuga, if I'm born in Kali Yuga, I'm unfortunate. So I'm going to go out in my swimming trunks. It's -3 degrees Fahrenheit. And, so that's foolish. Therefore, we have to take this very seriously, the covering of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra to protect us from the effects of Kali. Then we can function in the world. Otherwise, we can't be in our room and be happy. Gail Mataji, your question or your comment?
No question. I missed that point that in the interchange between you and Bhima Prabhu just now. How is it that Radharani was on the battlefield?
No, what Bhima Prabhu was alluding to was this notion that Krishna never forgets Radharani. So when he was on the receiving end of Bhishma Dev's very sharp arrows, it is described that this is like a love bite, because Bhishma Dev has a loving rasa with Krishna. So that could remind Krishna of his love for other devotees, including, of course, that main devotee, Radharani. So it could remind him of her, certainly, why not? And he never forgets her anyway, but at the same time, he also enjoys Bhishma Dev's special love for him. And he accepts those arrows into his chest. And he actually manifests blood also. See, Krishna is described as having no veins. In the Vedas described, Vishnu has no veins, he has no blood. So then so he exhibits the blood. Yeah? He exhibits these things to kind of express that love, to express the pastime.
Yeah. And where did that the naughty pastimes of Krishna and Balaram come from? Lakshmana and
Ram. So those are very. See, Ramayana gives some basic story. I mean, Ramayana gives the whole story of Lord Ram and Lakshman, but there are many other Puranas where some detailed pastimes and stories are found. So these are collections of stories from various Puranas that devotees have made, and they've given lectures on this. One Prabhupada disciple who gave his lectures back in the 90s, so I used to hear them, so that's where I picked it up from.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And yeah, I love all the jokes. You couldn't see me laughing, but I was.
Yeah, Gail, unmute yourself when you're laughing, please. We need that. Yeah. See, nice, good. See, we can really feel comfortable addressing very esoteric points when we have a qualified leading the discussion like Madame Gopal Prabhu. So thank you so much. It was beautiful. And
Well said.
we're going to send this recording to Yashoda Dulal Prabhu's co-workers. All right. Okay, so thank you very much for everybody participating in this class. Madame Gopal Prabhu, thank you very much. You led an extremely beautiful, nourishing, and bona fide discussion. Thank you very much. Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna. Thank you for your kindness. Haribol. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Hare
Madan
Krishna.
Gopal Prabhu ki jai.
Naveta Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Haribol. Thank you.
Haribo, thank you.
Haribol. Thank you. Thank you all.